I kept saying, Lord, please, whatever you need me to do, Jesus, whatever you need me to do, don't take my grandson, please.
Get on the ground!
How easy is it to get a semi-automatic gun?
Easy, just like it is when you go cash your paycheck.
You could come out the door in broad daylight, you can see people shooting across the street back and forth from each other.
Childhood friend of mine was gunned down, murdered, shot 12 times right here, died right here. You can still see his blood in the concrete.
The first one came in so like this, pointing like, get down. Then the rest of them came in, boom, boom, boom.
It was like somebody literally ripped my heart out. They didn't just take his life, they took mine too.
Things are just out of control.
Some of the deadliest neighborhoods in the country are right here in the St. Louis area. Tonight, News 4 Investigates goes beyond the headlines and the police crime reports. We dig into the root causes of violent crime and show what's being done about it by investigating a vicious cycle, broken homes, deadly streets, and shattered lives.
We thank you for the life and the legacy of Sister Naya.
Yes, Lord.
Even when you place it
Yes, Lord.
in the hands of God.
God, we ask you that you will meet all of us, bless all of us,
Please,
look
Jesus.
over all of us,
Please, Jesus.
save us,
Please, Jesus.
deliver us.
Please, Jesus.
There is still so much pain.
You shouldn't have to bury your child.
The wounds are deep,
You made me whole. You gave me purpose.
and they may never heal.
I want my son back. I want to hold my son. I want to be able to tell him I love him. And I know I can't have that ever.
The violent crime destroying lives in our community has repeatedly put St. Louis on the list of the most dangerous cities in America.
They killing each other out here for nothing. They act like it's a sport.
Just days before leaving for college on a full scholarship last summer, 18-year-old honor student Anaya Cook was shot in the face.
For someone to take her life, to shoot her in her face, beautiful young lady, to shoot her in her face, that is the ultimate.
Anaya was sitting with her boyfriend in his car in the Kingsway West neighborhood on the city's north side when gunmen opened fire on the vehicle. Prosecutors say her uninjured boyfriend was the intended target.
It plays in my mind like, what happened that night? Like, did my baby call out for us? Every picture, she's smiling.
Anaya was the only child of Orlando and Rochelle Cook, who spent 3 agonizing days and nights at Barnes Jewish Hospital as Anaya fought for her life.
We had been so beat up and kicked around and pushed around to where when they told us that she had finally passed, it was almost a relief.
It was a relief.
We had been beat so bad.
5 months after Anaya's murder, 36-year-old Brian Seiler was walking his dog on the city's south side in the Dutchtown neighborhood when he was shot in the back of the head.
I just lost it. I just crumbled down to the table and sobbed.
Mary Seiler is Brian's mother. Brian was her only child.
Nobody should have to feel what I'm feeling. Nobody.
Police found Brian's wallet in his pocket. His dog was still attached to the leash on his lifeless arm. That night, just 2 days before Christmas, she was the person who identified her dead son's body.
They pull the curtain back and you see their body there. You can't touch them. You can't hug them. You can't do anything but look.
Sometimes the shootings happen in broad daylight, in a bold, violent barrage that few of us can imagine.
Please, Lord. Please, Lord Jesus.
7 months ago, in the Penrose neighborhood on the city's north side, gunfire erupted outside the home of Terry Burgess.
I heard it. It was so close.
The bullets missed her 4-year-old grandson, who raced to the front door and grabbed hold of her.
He was terrified. He had a look on his face like he was running for his life.
He's 4.
Still outside, Terry's daughter Carolyn and Carolyn's 16-year-old son Pierre.
He just was running straight, and as soon as I got up to him, he fell.
Pierre had been shot in the back. The junior ROTC cadet and athlete who dreamed of being a lawyer died there, surrounded by more than 20 shell casings. He had taken 2 younger cousins to the store for candy bars.
I just wish I wouldn't have never called him to go down the street to the store, because he would never been down there.
It's sad that nobody's surprised when a 16-year-old is gunned down.
I need everybody behind this tape.
Researchers have repeatedly documented that violent crime, especially murder, is far more likely to happen in urban neighborhoods with extreme poverty, low levels of education, high unemployment, low percentages of home ownership, bad schools or closed schools that can add to a feeling of unrest, abandonment, and a lack of accomplishment, and families headed by single parents who move frequently, which creates even more instability. Racial segregation and the feeling by a race of people that they are isolated also plays a role. Nearly all of these neighborhoods in our region are more than 90% African American. The problems get worse when children from violent neighborhoods are vulnerable to attack inside their own schools, places where they should finally feel safe.
You add all that together, and that's the recipe for violent crime in a neighborhood.
Rick Rosenfeld is a criminology professor at the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Any single factor alone is not the problem. The problem is the degree to which these factors interact. In other words, you find all of them feeding off one another and in the same places.
In our region, we see extraordinary rates of violent crime. East St. Louis and Washington Park have the highest murder rates in the country, more than 20 times the national average. Much of North St. Louis City is also far above the national average. Smaller pockets in South St. Louis and the Jennings area in North St. Louis County also have extremely high rates of homicide. Terrell Golson is also an expert in the study of criminal behavior.
Born and raised in this hood.
He got his education on the streets of one of St. Louis's most violent neighborhoods.
I should have been dead a long time ago.
Terrell is a former member of a North St. Louis gang called the Grape Street Crips.
I wanted to be Billy Badass in my neighborhood.
As a young child living in poverty and surrounded by drugs, Terrell says that when he was 8, he was beaten so badly for so long that St. Louis police kicked down the door of his bedroom and removed him from his home.
My mama despised me. I got to the age where, like 10, I wanted to kill my mother. I literally found a 22 through one of the dope fiends in the neighborhood, wanted to get 2 stones for a 22.
He says a friend stopped him from using that 22 to shoot his mother, but Terrell's anger didn't go away.
This is all I knew.
Despite being removed from the neighborhood and given another chance, he still came back and joined the gang, believing it was his only family.
Well, my mama gave up on me. Why would anybody else want me? I came from my mom.
During his years as a Crip, his rap sheet grew to include more than 40 arrests, including ones for shootings, assaults, armed criminal actions, and even 2 murders. He was eventually convicted of drug-related crimes and sent to prison twice. How easy is it to get a semi-automatic gun?
Easy. Just like it is when you go cash your paycheck.
Just before the boldest shootings in broad daylight, Terrell says some gang members arrive in a convoy of rental cars with tinted windows.
They gonna come, they coming hard. 4, 5 cars tinted up, dress riding like me and you.
Their targets are usually rival gang members or individuals suspected of being involved in a previous shooting that targeted them. Among gangs, the revenge shootings are perceived as street justice. But it's still wrong.
Wrong is wrong, but you never know what that guy did. Karma is karma, you know what I'm saying? So what you do to somebody don't mean that somebody gonna look the other way, you hear me?
Years ago, he was shot in the back, leaving him with a gruesome injury. The blast ripped through his lower torso, leaving his insides barely contained by a thin wall of flesh. What are we looking at right here?
They see the chest bone they broke down. This all my testing right here.
After he was shot, he says the gang members he almost died for weren't there for him, not at the hospital or during his years behind bars.
That ain't got me nowhere, man. My block, Grape Street, ain't did nothing for me, man.
Now he wears any color he wants, even red, the color of his former enemies, the Bloods.
I once was one of y'all, you know what I'm saying? So everybody have a story to tell, and I got a story.
Now Terrell Golson is visiting classrooms with other former gang members as part of a program sponsored by the group Better Family Life. And he has a warning about the risks of being caught in this cycle of violence.
The fast money ain't the way to go, I'm telling y'all, it ain't.
It's one way Terrell is trying to break out of this cycle and make his family proud.
I try to make away from my 4-year-old so he'll never have to see half the his daddy had to go through.
I miss him so much.
Tears are the ties that bind families devastated by violence.
I love you, bro.
In the graveyards,
I just kept screaming, God, no, God, no, God, no, God, no.
family rooms, and on the streets.
Stop the violence, Lord Jesus,
Yes,
and replace it with love.
Grieving families are praying
And we ask and pray. Amen.
Amen, amen.
for a safer St. Louis.
She has touched so many people's lives when she was here and not here that her death won't be in vain. I know it won't.
Up next,
Nigel, how you doing?
Craig Cheatham.
How you doing?
The tragedy of one St. Louis family battling overwhelming odds.
He looks up at me and he says, "It's your fault for moving us down here."
And the devastating impact of the youngest son's deadly crime.
My whole world is gone. Everything came to an immediate halt.
Violent crime can happen anywhere, but it's taken a particularly devastating toll on inner-city black families living in poverty. According to the United States Department of Justice, African Americans are 7 times more likely than whites to commit murder and 6 times more likely to be murdered. Of course, the big question is why, and the answer is complicated. This is the story of one St. Louis family. He was wide-eyed and innocent.
Nigel was always a good kid.
Nigel Generally, the youngest of 3 boys born to a proud mother.
Nigel was never a problem child and never got into trouble. I never had any issues with him.
Nigel?
How you doing?
Craig Cheatham.
How you doing?
Thanks for doing the interview.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But Nigel had serious problems, and we're all paying the price. He became a gang member at the age of 12. That was a decade ago. Now he's in prison for a murder committed when he was just 19.
I won't never see him out here anymore. I won't live unless I live to be 8 years old. I'll never see my son.
It's not the first time the family has run on prison time.
Let's take a seat.
Nigel's father is 20 years into a 75-year sentence for armed robbery. He went away when Nigel was only 2.
I see my babies falling off one at a time, and I can't do nothing about it.
Nigel's older brother John, who's mentally ill, is in jail facing robbery charges.
I need real help.
This is the story about the breakdown of one St. Louis family, how it happened, how much it's costing us as a society, and the impact Nigel's violent crimes are having on his victims.
Everything was gone. Everything. It's like, and then it's never coming back.
Our story begins in Alton, Illinois. Nigel's mom, Nicole, born in 1969, was a little girl known for her big and bright smile. But behind that smile, she was hiding a secret that was tearing her apart.
I was abused, sexually abused by family members.
She got depressed, had low self-esteem, and felt alone. Nicole says her parents separated and that she rarely saw her father, even though he lived in the same town.
He wasn't there, you know, and that hurt a lot.
In December 1987, just 2 weeks before Christmas of her senior year in high school, Nicole gave birth to her first son, John. In 1989, her second son, Nicholas, was born. Court records show that Nicole repeatedly filed criminal charges against their father, accusing him of physically abusing her. In at least 3 cases, the charges were dropped because Nicole didn't show up for court. She kept going back to him, hoping and praying things would get better.
He told me if he couldn't be with me, he was not gonna, if I didn't want to be with him, he was not gonna be there for the kids. And he meant it.
About a year after Nick was born, Nicole packed up her belongings in the middle of the night, took her 2 sons, and left their father.
Yeah.
Not long after that, she met Keith Buckles, a man with a long history of car theft and forgery. They had a son, Nigel, born in 1992. 2 years later, Keith Buckles was convicted of armed robbery and sentenced to 75 years in prison for masterminding the operation.
She loves them boys more than anything.
He spoke to us at the Menard Medium Security Prison in Chester, Illinois.
Mr. Cheatham, as God is my witness, I had nothing to do with them doing these armed robberies.
2 of his own children by a different woman testified against him, even though court records show there was conflicting evidence about whether he was involved at all. Keith was convicted and received more time than many killers get for a cold-blooded murder. He also lost his appeal. In the same case, Nicole accepted an Alford plea, which means she didn't admit to committing a crime, but accepted that the prosecution could prove she conspired to commit the robbery. She took the deal because it allowed her to get out of jail and return to her sons.
She had nothing to do with this. At all, period.
In 1996, 2 years after Keith Buckles was sentenced to prison, Nicole, generally struggling more than ever, was charged with cocaine possession. When she finished her probation in January 2000, she was 31, single, poor, with 3 sons, ages 13, 11, and 8. Their fathers were not involved in their lives. She and the boys had moved repeatedly, and that would also take a toll on their family. Our investigation has found 20 mailing addresses for them, including 16 in the St. Louis area alone since the late 1980s, an average stay of 15 months at each home. Nicole continued drinking heavily. Her anxiety and depression made it harder to hold a job. The family fell deeper into poverty and despair.
A lot of things were ugly, and I know that probably had a big impact on their lives also. Seeing me drunk out of my mind, you know what I'm saying? Or having a different guy every 5-6 months, you know. Probably because I drank. I wouldn't say because I drank. I didn't feel that I ran into the right guys, but I still don't think that was cool for me. I think I should not have introduced them all to my kids so soon.
Well, what was the worst part of the way you grew up? What were the worst things about it?
Drinking.
Your mom's drinking.
Yeah.
We interviewed Nigel at the Menard Maximum Security Penitentiary in Chester, just a short drive from where his father is incarcerated. What was so bad about that?
It affects you. It makes you feel like, man, I ain't got nobody. What can I do? You know what I'm saying? I just want to run away, just get away.
In an effort to escape the problems in their home, Nigel and his brothers spent more time in the streets. Nigel says the 3 boys all joined a local gang, 26 Madison, on St. Louis's north side. It became their family, or so they thought. John, who suffered from bipolar disorder, seemed to embrace the violence the most.
I've been shot twice. It ain't cool, man. More than 15 of my homeboys get killed.
John's mental illness was diagnosed when he was a teen, and even though his mother says she tried to help him, eventually getting him put on medication, John became angrier, depressed, and suicidal.
I done tried to kill myself a lot of times.
Why?
Because I be getting tired of living. I be getting tired of going through this stuff.
John, who is 25,
Got my daughter right there.
says he has 7 children.
Got 2 sons right here.
Just before he got arrested for a crime he says he didn't commit, John believed that he had it all: Finally, he was able to get a monthly government check for his disability.
My girl.
And his girlfriend got a government housing subsidy. It was his version of the American dream.
I was getting everything that I possibly wanted when I was a kid for my kids. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to grow up and be a family, have a family, a happy family, away from violence.
Throughout their teenage years, the boys were surrounded by violence. John and Nicholas were both shot. Nicole still remembers running to Nick as he laid on his back, the teenage boy partially paralyzed by a bullet.
When I get down there and I see him laying there on the ground, on his back, and he couldn't move, and he looks up at me and he says, "It's your fault for moving us down here. It's your fault," you know, and I can never get that out of my head. I can never get that out of my head.
The affection.
Nigel was never shot, but some of his best friends were killed. After one of those murders, he dropped out of school. It was 2008. He was 16. Then, 3 years later, as the 19-year-old father of a newborn son, Nigel claims he was forced to commit a robbery to pay off a debt to a drug dealer. Nigel says the dealer threatened to kill his family if he didn't do it.
What else was I supposed to do?
3 weeks before Christmas 2011, 3 gunmen busted through the front door of this Alton home. A half-dozen people were inside, including a small child.
The first one came in, so like this, point like, get down. Then the rest of them came in, boom, boom, boom.
Joe Wade and Christine Owings say all 3 suspects had guns.
Right there.
One of the gunmen shot their 2 dogs.
They shot twice and we didn't know where the bullets went. Boom.
The leader of the group demanded drugs and money, but Wade says they left empty-handed.
It's scary as hell. Like, it's a terrifying feeling.
I had no choice.
Nigel told me he was one of the men who invaded the home.
I didn't hold a gun on her.
But you were in the house when someone else held a gun on her.
Yeah.
2 days later, Nigel made another attempt to repay the debt. This time, he tried to rob 23-year-old Tyler Hoppy at gunpoint. Nigel claims the gun accidentally went off.
My finger slipped and pulled the trigger, but I didn't pull what I'm...
So did you shoot him or not?
Nah.
You didn't shoot him?
Nah.
But regardless of how it happened, Tyler Hoppy was still dead, killed by a gunshot to his head.
It was like somebody literally ripped my heart out.
Rachel Rawlings was Tyler Hoppy's girlfriend. She was 2 months pregnant when Nigel killed him. A week later, she had a miscarriage. That was 1.5 years ago.
My whole world is gone. Everything came to an immediate halt. They didn't just take his life, they took mine too.
Yeah, I did wrong. Saying I did it. But at the same time, I do not deserve to spend the rest of my life in a penitentiary.
I'm not who I used to be. I used to be fun and outgoing and friendly, and now I'm bitter and cold and hateful and resentful.
Although Nigel didn't know it at the time of the murder, Tyler was his cousin.
I apologize that I put myself in a position to even harm him, but at the same time, that can't change nothing.
This is a tragedy, but it's a tragedy that occurs frequently.
James Clark.
What's up, brother? You all right?
Is the vice president of Better Family Life.
We will give you what you need.
A local nonprofit that has a long history of helping troubled teens and former convicts get jobs and become involved in the community in a more productive way.
We have allowed some of our neighborhoods to become incubators for this kind of family tradition that becomes a neighborhood condition, and now it's a cancer that is eating at the core of the foundation of St. Louis.
Like any untreated cancer, the one that has devoured the Generally family continues to grow.
I'm doing the same thing to my son that my old man did to me.
I've done the blame me thing for all of their years, and I'm trying to get past that because I do know, that I raised them well. I raised them as best as I was able. The past, we have to leave in the past and take each day now to try to make things better and make things right, you know. And to grow closer to each other, you know, as we are all we have.
There's a 45 and it's in between your eyes.
Coming up next.
I know you got a gun.
Hold on, folks. We ride with police.
Prepare to copy 1028.
Hey, it's us. It's Berkman.
As they risk their lives.
Don't make our job any harder. Just please sit in the vehicle and remain quiet.
Fighting violent crime.
They'll come put a gun up to you and try to take your car and just take whatever you have.
In some of St. Louis's most dangerous neighborhoods, police are outgunned and poorly prepared. In other areas, the heroic actions of police have dramatically reduced violent crime. Tonight, you'll go along for the ride as police patrol some of America's deadliest streets.
We're headed to the 4700 block of Caseyville that has been identified as a trouble spot.
We're heading to 4 block, a violent stretch of Caseyville Road in Washington Park.
To be able to be truly effective, I need additional manpower.
Our guide is Police Chief Aubrey Keller, a former deputy chief in East St. Louis who came out of retirement to help Washington Park.
They killed my baby boy.
When we get there, the chief is approached by a murder victim's mother. Her son was killed right here 2 years ago.
I cannot let go of this right here because I am broke. They have broke me.
Who broke you?
Look, the whole vicinity, because look, they know what's going on, and look, won't nobody say nothing.
There are a lot of mothers like her in Washington Park. In 2011 alone, there were 11 murders in this impoverished village of 4,100 people. That's 1 killing for every 370 residents, a murder rate that was 8 times higher than the city of St. Louis had that year.
Police won't do nothing. Come on now. But they say they still looking for them. You're not looking for them.
Tell him one time and don't tell him again.
The Washington Park Police Department is overwhelmed by the violence and severely underfunded to fight it.
We're continuing a cycle that's vicious and that things are just out of control.
Right now, he ain't under arrest.
During a typical week, the village doesn't even have 2 cops on the streets for every shift. Several officers have been prosecuted for misconduct in recent years. Others avoided criminal charges, but are the frequent targets of complaints. The headquarters is in a rundown building that had rotting garbage piling up behind it during the heat of the summer. Officers are paid as little as $12 an hour to serve and protect in one of the most violent communities in America. Are you confident in your police department, the officers who serve this community?
Well, I'm confident in the oath we take, and my prayer is that all of the officers, they hold that sacred.
Now Chief Keller, on the job since May, says it's time for this broken community to admit that it can't protect itself.
I don't think it's feasible to continue as a police department providing patrol services that are inadequate to the community. And that calls for me to recommend the dissolution of the police department.
The problems facing Washington Park are shared by many other small, poor communities in the St. Louis area.
Prepare to copy 1028.
You gotta respect him, man.
Contraband found in the vehicle.
Where cops are paid little to dodge bullets and save lives in what some prosecutors call war zones.
There's a 45 and it's in between your eyes.
Right next to Washington Park in the village of Brooklyn.
No guns or anything in here?
Cops are always looking for the gun.
All right.
Sir, I got a gun right here on my right.
I know you got a gun. Hey, get on the ground.
Oh, man.
Hands to your side.
Time is 1 a.m.
In September, we followed Brooklyn police.
Every element possible is coming to Brooklyn.
On their most dangerous shift.
Make sure all the lights and sirens are together. All equipment is active. Everybody's cool. All right. Let's do it, man. Let's get out here.
Overnights on weekends, the clubs in the small village of less than 700 residents draw thousands of partiers from all over the metro area.
Don't make our job any harder. Just please sit in the vehicle and remain quiet. The violence is out here.
You know, they're out here, they're robbing people. You know what I mean? They catch you coming from your vehicle. They catch you walking to your vehicle. You know, they'll come put a gun up to you and try to take your car and just take whatever you have.
Brooklyn Police Chief Tony Tomlinson says his officers take up to 15 guns a month off the streets.
Suspended.
Typically in traffic stops late at night near the clubs.
If someone was to fire one of these weapons with all the people that are downtown Brooklyn on a Friday or Saturday night, the effects of that could be catastrophic.
Like a airplane. Go ahead and cuff him.
Some of those weapons were connected to other crimes. How many guns are in the hands of dangerous criminals? In July, federal prosecutors and ATF agents revealed that a massive undercover operation had recovered 267 guns in just a few months from the most dangerous neighborhoods in the St. Louis area. In all, 159 suspects were charged, and many were already off the streets.
It was an opportunity to try to restore the community, to return some of the freedoms that these fine citizens deserve.
The stunning amount of guns in the hands of criminals willing to use them also poses a constant threat to police. A recent report by the FBI found 72 American law enforcement officers were murdered in 2011. 2 out of 3 were killed with handguns. During the last decade, 10 cops and a deputy U.S. Marshal were gunned down in the St. Louis area. Many of them were ambushed. The murdered law enforcement officers were black and white, serving both the inner city and the suburbs.
You can read about things in the paper, but it means nothing to you if you don't live there and understand the outcry.
The concern over gun-related crime and how to address it dominated the Missouri Attorney General's Urban Crime Summit in St. Louis. One of the key topics was the need for a special court docket in the city that focuses on cases of armed robbery and unlawful use of weapons.
It's really quite a complex problem.
One proposal, backed by the circuit attorney, police chief, and mayor, would have devoted 2 prosecutors and 2 judges to the docket, emphasizing speedier trials and higher cash-only bonds. The cases would have been tracked in detail by UMSL criminologist Rick Rosenfeld. But a majority of the circuit judges rejected the idea, insisting they would simply pay closer attention to those cases.
How easy is it to get a semi-automatic gun?
Easy.
Former gang leader Terrell Golson told me what many of today's gangsters think about police.
Do you think gang members are scared of police?
No, not these days, it ain't, no.
Was it different 20 years ago?
20 years ago, you'd be running and trying to hide and all that from the police. Yeah, back then you would.
Not today.
No, today is what it is, you know what I'm saying? You up yours, I'm up mine, we're gonna see who get the first draw, you know?
In some of our most dangerous neighborhoods, police solve less than half the homicides.
3 of my sons have been shot.
Kimberly Schooler's 21-year-old son Jordan was shot and killed in East St. Louis in January. But despite that, she refuses to cooperate with police on any other case.
If you knew who shot somebody, you wouldn't tell the police?
No, because they're not gonna do nothing. The way they do it, if they some kin to somebody, they would go and say, well, Craig, well, Kim said that you shot somebody. So then they're gonna come to me. They're not gonna protect me.
The unwritten rules against snitching are the focus of countless rap videos.
Just don't, whatever you do, snitch, 'cause you will get hit. Pray I don't face you, yes.
Those videos may increase cultural pressure to not cooperate with police, but the strong undercurrent of resistance to cops runs much deeper than that. Repeated national studies have shown that blacks are far more likely to get arrested for drugs, even though surveys show whites are more likely to use them. And on average, blacks get much higher prison sentences than whites for the same crimes.
When's the last time you were arrested for heroin?
2008. St. Louis County Police say whites from the suburbs are by far the biggest customers of heroin dealers.
Am I being arrested? You're being detained right now, okay? All right.
County police stopped this couple from St. Charles who admitted they were trying to buy heroin.
He knows I'm using right now.
Do you want help for it?
Yes, I'm supposed to be getting into treatment this week.
Even though they can buy heroin in the suburbs, they came to the north side of St. Louis County, where it's often cheaper, stronger, and easier to get.
Why did you and your boyfriend come down there today?
By heroin.
The 33-year-old woman, a self-described addict, agreed to talk with us if we didn't use her name.
I don't get high from it anymore. I haven't in months. But I just use every day so I don't feel the sickness. I can't afford to use it to get high.
Are you afraid that you'll OD someday?
I have.
You have OD'd. How many times?
Twice. Recently, if I wouldn't have had somebody there with me, I would have died.
After several long conversations about the dangers of drug abuse, police finally released her. Investigators say the sale of street narcotics are often the biggest moneymaker for the criminals wreaking havoc in our community.
Hold on, folks.
And that brings us here. In a St. Louis County police car, racing at speeds up to 80 miles an hour, responding to a call to help an officer in need.
Hey, it's us. It's Bergman.
We are riding with Sergeant Jason Law to see the neighborhood enforcement team in action, but it's only one part of our day inside their operation. We began here with intelligence officer Casey Lambert,
Just different than the classification.
who uses software to find the data that helps her track certain crimes
Burglaries, assaults, homicides.
and identify possible hotspots.
I pull up what time they're occurring, what day they're occurring, and the location, and that's how I map them out. And if I have two or more in one area, that's when I put together the map.
After she spots a problem area, Officer Lambert looks deep in her files
And in this file cabinet is a list of all the gangs.
for more information about possible suspects who have been involved in similar activity in the same location.
So this is how we gather the intel that we need for our hotspot policing.
Then she creates a detailed report to consider for a possible plan of attack. That information is brought to a meeting with Captain Troy Doyle. The focus is on following burglaries
One burglary occurred at 1900 hours.
that may be connected with illegal drug activity. Police keep telling us that drug dealers and users are often involved in other crimes.
Do we got any known burglars and those coaches that you mentioned that's currently wanted for burglary?
Yes.
If he's out there, I'd like to lock him up.
After the meeting, Sergeant Law brings the plan to the neighborhood enforcement team officers.
You guys ready to go out?
Good.
All righty.
When you combine crime fighting driven by data with a focus on building relationships with the community,
30 years of infestation in our communities to get us to the point where we at now.
then flooding police into hotspots,
What you guys got going on there?
you can have a dramatic impact on crime.
Okay, we're good.
St. Louis County Police say crime is down 40% since they took over policing in Jennings nearly 3 years ago.
Baby's all right. Nobody's in the house.
And in St. Louis City, murders have plunged 31% in the last 6 years. Violent crime overall has also fallen dramatically. One of the keys has been focusing large numbers of police on smaller areas that have much higher rates of murder and gun-related crime. It's called hotspot policing.
No other policing strategy is as effective in reducing crime, violent and some types of property crime, as the hotspot strategy.
Where's everybody at? You got somebody on containment back there? They're coming around.
Can we afford to do it enough to cut violent crime in half in these hotspots? My sense is yes, we can.
But what happens when the cops are crooks?
Did you commit fraud, Larry?
Negative, sir.
Can I read the warrant to you? Why were you arrested today?
Prosecutors have charged cops throughout the region with a variety of crimes over the years. But nowhere has the impact of police corruption been greater than East St. Louis and the surrounding villages of Washington Park, Allerton,
Chief Baxton,
and Brooklyn. Some of those dirty cops were protected by corrupt police chiefs and mayors who were also convicted and went to prison.
The citizens don't trust the police department because they've seen publicly what some of their leaders in the police department have done.
Steve Wigington, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Illinois, says police corruption makes troubled communities more dangerous because it makes law enforcement more difficult.
And it's obvious that you've been drinking a lot.
You can't say these communities are really safe. They're safe to a certain extent, but they're not safe for children and they're not safe for the elderly.
Calvin Dye was raised in East St. Louis. An Illinois state trooper for more than 30 years, he's now an investigator for the St. Clair County State's Attorney's Office and the chair of a new police commission that oversees the departments of East St. Louis,
Tell them to show all units 10-8, okay?
Brooklyn, Allerton, and Washington Park.
We want each community to be able to police themselves. Right now, they are policing themselves the best they can with the resources they have.
The state's attorney's office just created a set of professional requirements for those departments that will attempt to raise the quality of policing by helping them get more resources and training.
Talk to him civil and respect him, man.
The commission is receiving guidance from the United States Department of Justice.
We're headed in the right direction.
It's an enormous challenge, especially in Washington Park, where there are more strip clubs than cops.
I watched my baby laid out there with his eyes open, and look, please help me and straighten this out, because they know.
Help is slow in coming.
Come on now, I'm broke down about that.
Some memories can haunt you for the rest of your life.
It's just senseless.
Decades of fighting crime in an urban war zone have created memories for Chief Keller, too, including a murder he investigated 20 years ago.
You can still see the lifeless body of that librarian. That's how much of an impact it had on you.
The house, the location of the suspect, where he laid.
Now, as he engages in a desperate fight for the safety of Washington Park, the chief of police is sometimes able to offer little more than a prayer for peace.
I'm going to serve this community and do the best that I can do.
Childhood friend of mine was gunned down, murdered, shot 12 times right here.
Coming up next,
Trying to save the lives of the youth.
former gangsters try to stop the violence.
Someone lost their child to the gun violence.
And absent fathers
like the horsey.
come back to their children.
And value what he needs to be doing for his children.
As we focus on healing broken families.
We don't need to reinvent it. Everything we need is right here in our neighborhoods.
The most violent neighborhoods are often the most depressed. There's a desperate need for opportunity here. The opportunity that comes with new businesses like this development in Old North St. Louis and the jobs that come with them. But the experts tell us that it's just as important to invest directly in families.
So welcome to the Art Museum.
It's the kind of family time many of us take for granted.
Some big paintings, right?
A group of fathers
And tells you what year we got it.
with their children
like the horsey.
touring the St. Louis Art Museum.
Right through here.
Every step together is cherished.
Morning, fellas. Morning. How everybody doing?
The father-child get-together at the museum is actually part of a program that started here
Left here with a positive attitude about that.
at the Father's Wrap.
But if you got time to get high, if you got time to run the streets, if you got time to go woman to woman, we got time for friends. You know what I'm saying? We should make time for ourselves.
These men have voluntarily enrolled at the Father Support Center in the heart of North St. Louis. They're here because they want to be better fathers.
I have 3 children, 22 years old, I have 1 son.
40 years old, got 8 kids. How's everybody doing?
The center was founded in 1997 by Halbert Sullivan, a man who knows a lot about broken families.
My mom never married my father. I never knew the guy really.
And the consequences.
By 1975, I was standing in front of a judge at the age of 24 years old, and he was pronouncing life on me for selling drugs. Yes.
After years of crime and drugs, he got clean.
And I thought, this is just crazy.
And then got a master's degree in social work at Washington University.
Get right with it, that recent decision making.
His Father Support Center is a national model for breaking the cycle of broken homes.
The lack of family structure in urban America is as worse as anything you could ever imagine.
Taking some big steps.
In urban America, there are no, in my opinion, there are no true, realistic family values. Spit it out. What's up?
Halbert Sullivan insists the breakdown of families is a leading factor for high crime rates.
Don't start there, man. Don't start there.
He says the best way to change that
There's something wrong with that thinking right there.
is to get dads involved.
39, I got 6 kids.
35, 8 kids.
Along with parenting skills, they will earn GEDs and get job training. But it's tough.
My name is Aaron Woodson. I got 3 kids. I'm 26 years old.
Aaron Woodson just got out of prison. The mother of his children is still behind bars. He hasn't seen his daughter in months.
Last time I seen her was on Christmas, and that's it. You know, I wanted to, share a picture with y'all, if y'all didn't mind, and just knowing that, I'm a father, and, you know, I want to get close to my daughter and, you know, be in her life. You know, I feel that this program can help me out.
Not long after this session, Aaron was out of the program.
Darnell Sherrod, 28. I got 2 kids.
Darnell Sherrod is hoping for a second chance.
There you go.
Damani is his second child. He wants to get it right this time.
My oldest daughter is 10, and I wasn't in her life quite as much as I should have been. Daddy's girl. I mean, having a mother is pretty decent, but it's rarely that the fathers be around. To see them grow up is a beautiful thing.
Trying to save the lives of the youth.
Terrell Golson is taking a different approach to helping families in crisis.
Keep doing what you're doing, it's gonna pay off.
He's with a group of men passing out flyers.
You won, he won.
Urging residents to put down the guns.
Someone lost their child to the gun violence.
One of the men with him, Joe Robinson, shows me vivid evidence that the folks in this neighborhood have been devastated by violent crime.
Childhood friend of mine was gunned down, murdered, shot 12 times right here, died right here. You can still see his blood in the concrete.
Any idea why they came after him?
It's the life, the game. That's one thing we need to understand. If you play the game, you got to accept the game. Flat out.
Tired of the violence, tired of the abuse, tired of
Just tired of the way of life. That way of life, man.
Joe and Terrell are an unlikely pair. Terrell was a Crip, Joe a Blood. Gang rivals on the streets of St. Louis. They met in prison.
How does a Crip and a Blood become best friends?
Maturity, understanding, wisdom.
Now they're fighting together to reach and save today's at-risk kids.
You'd rather be free out here than in jail and ain't got nobody telling you what to do.
Joe and Terrell are part of the Neighborhood Alliance program based out of Better Family Life in North St. Louis.
They teach you something.
The program connects many ex-offenders with jobs and requires them to give back to the community through projects like the Put Down the Pistol campaign and the door-to-door delivery of a list of services and phone numbers to families in need.
Our inner cities have seemed to have just been abandoned. So we believe that it's now time for us to begin to come back into neighborhoods and embrace people in the neighborhoods.
James Clark, a vice president of Better Family Life, says crime has plunged in the 2 neighborhoods targeted by the Alliance Project.
When are we going to say we know where the neighborhoods are, where the resources are needed? Let's send resources into these neighborhoods. When America gets to that point, you will see a reduction in crime, you will see a reduction in violence, and all of us will become safer.
Tyree Truss feels safer too. Like Terrell and Joe, he's been helped by Better Family Life. Now he's a cook at the Rustic Goat near St. Louis's trendy Loft District.
You silly.
He seems happy, and that's a dramatic change from his childhood.
Anthony, can you watch this?
I remember me and my brother, we had cap guns. We were outside shooting at each other in the snow. It was a beautiful Christmas. And that was the first time I seen somebody get killed. I don't know what it was about, don't know what it was for. But at that time, I thought it was okay.
He grew up surrounded by drugs and violence, joining a gang and committing his first strong-armed robbery at age 10.
They'll tell you, I don't got nothing, I don't got nothing. No. Smack them with the pistol. And if they still don't want to say anything, shoot them in their leg. Tell you, look, next time I'm gonna hit you in your stomach. Next time I'm gonna hit you in your neck. Where is it? I know you got it.
Did it work?
Every time.
At 17, he was in jail.
Lucian's bread pudding?
Now, in his early 20s, he believes he's turned his life around.
I'm glad I'm here, though. I'm glad I'm here and able to tell what's going on, what's been going on.
Like Terrell and Joe, he also goes door to door, paying back the help he got from mentors and community support groups.
Ty, you come in. Just checking on everything. I got everything prepped.
Restaurant owner David Holman believes Tyree has put that hard past behind him.
It's about having that support staff and having some characters in your life that do understand, a better life or a better opportunity they can tell you about.
There's your prize. You won a fish.
Tyree's support system still includes Better Family Life, which is also devoted to helping residents throughout North St. Louis reclaim their neighborhoods. Part of the group's mission involves hosting community events like this block party with free food and games.
We don't need to reinvent it. Everything we need is right here in our neighborhoods. We have got to come in and not bring our own flavor, but take the flavor that's already there.
On the same Saturday, just blocks away from the neighborhood party, a group of fathers use sports to turn their kids in a positive direction.
So the goal here is to basically kind of turn this into their gang.
Right.
Does it work?
Pretty much. Some kids. We still lose a few kids to the streets or whatever, but we save a lot of kids also. I didn't have a father in the home with me, so it's very important to me. I want to break the cycle to where I'm in the household with my son, so he can have a male role model to look up to.
It's been a journey. A long run. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
And here's proof that those efforts to break the cycle do have results.
What I've learned since I've been here is to be productive in my life.
The men in the Father Support Center program are graduating.
50% of these men have received some type of employment or are involved in a training component.
On this stage, on this night, the spotlight is on them.
Oftentimes people think that we're trying to do something for this guy. That's not the intent. The intent is to impact outcomes for children. So we're working between his ears for him to begin to understand and value what he needs to be doing for his children.
Tonight, News 4 Investigates dug beyond the headlines to try to give you a deeper understanding of violent crime in our area and what's being done about it. We all know there are many safe neighborhoods in the St. Louis area, but violence knows no boundaries. People of all backgrounds can kill and be killed. We often hear people say, "It's not my problem." It is our problem. And how we respond to it, how all of us respond to it, will help define us as a community.